This.
Hi, welcome back to Plus This. I'm Kathy Deach.
And I'm Nikki Bailey.
And we are so thrilled to have you here.
So thrilled.
Did you miss us? We were away.
We missed it. We missed like a week, right?
Yeah, 4th of July.
Okay. Did you get your party on?
What happened? The earth shook.
Okay.
We weren't on the air and the earth shook.
And there was an earthquake.
And
they just couldn't handle it.
We're on the air here when the second one for sure happens. It was everything went. Ryan was there, our engineer.
Wow.
And he's just going to show us a video later. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe we felt it. And we're we just need to chill.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We knew ahead of time.
Yeah.
We planned it.
We planned the chill. I did a lot of streaming, binging. I did Fleabag.
Oh, that is my jam. I am now watching it for the third time.
Nikki, it's so good, but I will tell you, as a single person, it's calling me out a little too hard. It's tragical. It's like, ouch, stop seeing me and pointing that out in me. Stop it. And some of the things the dad said to her, and she said, I just was like.
It's so good and so painful at the same time. It's cringeworthy.
And laugh
out loud funny. It's so good. Such a great show.
And she's so brilliant. Oh, yeah. It's just good. And anyway, so I did that and then was questioning my life choices. And then I went on to Rami. And he is just a delightful little cupcake.
Can I tell? So I did an after show for Rami.
Oh, you did?
And that show is on so many levels deep. I mean, Can I just tell you? First of all, we have never seen an average millennial Muslim kid have a life on television.
Absolutely not.
And the way that he so beautifully tackles what it means to be Muslim American in this time period. All of the what's so everyday and all the what's so extraordinary. It's such a brilliant show. If he does not get Emmy Awards for that.
I know. I know they pressed it really hard. I saw him everywhere, which is why I knew about it. And he's just adorable. I just don't know, if that has caught on. I don't know. I feel like everybody should watch it, especially because it shows how just like Christians, just like Jews, we all show up in our faith in different ways. Absolutely. And in my 20s, I definitely treated my faith in one way, and you did in your 20s. You know what I mean? We... as Christians, also go through those periods of trying to rediscover our religion and have it bring something to us.
Who do I want to be? I mean, it's the question that we all, no matter what your experience is, we're all asking that question. Who do I want to be, and how do I be that person and live in alignment with those values? When I'm not even sure which parts I believe and which parts I want to believe and which parts I want to. It's such a well done show, and it doesn't even matter ethnically, religiously, whatever. It's such a great show, and no matter where you come from, whatever walk of life, you can relate to it.
I definitely think so. Yeah. And yet also the lens is so specific. Imagine going through that and not having Christianity. What if Christianity was everyone thought you were crazy and going to blow them up at any given time? Yeah. That was really... and that you'd be laughing at his struggle and be oh, he's trying to figure it out. And then something right. And I'm as a Christian, that would never happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that was so great is that it was so specific to this one individual man's experience, and yet we could relate to it. So that's so hard to do from a creative standpoint. Yeah. Be that specific and that general at the same time. So it's a beautiful show.
I'm glad they let him be himself.
Me too.
Maybe we'll run into him one day. He's really cute.
I know somebody who knows him.
I wonder if he has older siblings.
My co-host on my other.
He's too young for me, but he is a dish.
He is a dish, and he's so charming.
Oh, so funny. Yeah. Anyway,
hey,
that wasn't even on our run of show. That's what's hilarious.
We just were talking about TV.
You know who we have? Dr. Sabrina Strings.
Dr. Sabrina Strings. She is the author of Fearing the Black Body, and which is a book that talks about how fat phobia actually came from racism and from
white
that
supremacy.
from white supremacy, and she traces the history of fat phobia back through sort of like race science and the sort of biases that have existed in science from the beginning. She brings in some philosophy, some Foucault. I mean, she's just, it's amazing.
It's an incredibly, all-inclusive.
Yeah.
I was just saying to her, it's like we've read all of these things that people have been exploring about fat phobia and heard the history and heard different pieces.
Right.
And it's like she took all the cards and like put them in one neat deck. It's really... what is the word I'm looking for? Like complete. It really leaves.
It really is.
Very
And
little out.
I studied critical race theory in graduate school, and that she can draw on. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, she'll talk about how long it took her to write this book, but
5 years, she said.
The number of resources and the depth in which she dives into those resources, just astounding.
Just a little teaser, basically. It's the damn French. The damn French did it.
Them Frenches. You know them Frenches.
I can't. Ugh, I'm gonna talk about that. Also, this isn't on the Run of Show either because it just happened.
Bring it. Talk about it.
Jason Momoa.
How y'all gonna come for Jason Momoa?
How you gonna come for Aquaman?
Fun as his behind is. So Jason Momoa, between projects at the moment, on vacay with his fam. And people are taking pictures of him and they're saying that he's gone dad bod. And they're like judging the fact that he is not like super carved like he is in the Aquaman posters. So first of all, we don't even know what Jason Momoa's stuff even really looks like anyway, because we've only ever seen him on film, where they can digitally alter anything they want. That's the first
Aquaman.
thing. He's Aquaman.
He literally has like things drawn on him.
And secondly, even his dad bod.
Yeah. He can be as thick as he want to be.
Okay.
He can. Jason, you be as thick as you want to be.
Jason, let me get you a slice of pie, boo. As long as you still you. Because you fine as you want to be. Don't matter what size or shape.
And you want to know, lots of luck, everyone.
Okay.
Who's like, ew. Lots of luck.
Right.
Have fun in your life. Go try to find a Jason Momoa.
And also, like Jason Momoa cares what you think.
Exactly.
Okay? Like he and Lisa Bonet chilling with their little kids.
That's right. Not Lisa Bonet.
Yes.
Is her name? No.
That's not her name anymore. Well, that's not true. Maybe it is.
What's her daughter? What's her daughter's name? Wait a minute. He's not with Lisa. Is he with her daughter?
No. Zoe. That's Zoe Kravitz.
I thought he was with Zoe Kravitz.
No, he's with Lisa Bonet, who at some point in life had changed her name to Lilikai Moon.
Oh, right.
And I think she's back to Lisa Bonet now.
I mean, she's fierce.
Oh. Denise Huxtable is not to be played with.
For this entire time, I've been thinking that. I mean, really.
No, so Lisa Bonet is Zoe Kravitz's mom.
I know. I know. And this whole time.
Oh, you thought that Jason Momoa was dating. Oh, no.
Lisa Bonet, look, get your life.
Look, Lisa Bonet was like Lenny Kravitz, Jason Momoa.
She'll breed with all of them.
Okay. and look, it doesn't matter who she's with. She gonna make a beautiful baby.
She does. I mean, stunning.
Come on.
Stunning. She is
she's amazing.
Everything. Yeah.
And I'm so glad she's back on TV again. So yeah.
I love her. She's a great actor.
So good.
She's a great actor. There also was an incident on an airline, which I frequent, American Airlines, because it's the only one that goes to Philly straight through. And she was a doctor, by the way.
A doctor
who
gets on the
a
plane.
Cute little. even have a picture of it.
Little halter jumper.
Yeah,
looking just adorable on her way home from vacation.
Yeah,
or two. I don't remember which direction. And how about the airline people? The flight attendant is going to say that she's not dressed appropriately because of because she's got on it's shorts and a halter top. And they made her deplane, and before they would let her get back on the plane, they made her wrap herself in a blanket. Do you know what her crime was? Traveling fat and black. Mm-hmm. And she ain't even fat.
She's not
She's
fat.
Just a little thick.
She's not fat.
She looked good. I mean, not to say that fat doesn't look good, but whatever. You know what I mean? But she's not fat. But I'm guessing that this flight attendant saw, butt in shorts, and I don't know what she thought. Like, honestly, like, mind your business.
Especially, Nikki, since I have seen the trifling host. I mean, I'm on fire today. The trifling hosts who have been on flights, on American airline flights, the white people
in their pajamas,
in like things that don't even cover their butts, like just putting like vagina on a seat.
I have seen bikini tops on airplanes,
and not a peep. Mm-mm. So I don't know when American Airlines all of a sudden.
Well, you know, it was that flight attendant.
But she had to be backed up.
Well, here's the thing, right? The flight attendant says something, and then the rest of the crew has to be on board with whatever she says, because otherwise it undermines her authority. And so now everybody has to support what she says, holding up a flight because she doesn't like the outfit this woman is wearing.
Exactly, and she was complying and saying, what do I have to do to get on the flight? And the woman, she said 3 different times, she said that, just tell me what you need. And the woman's like, I really don't want you to be causing trouble. Like, right. And this woman is a doctor. Yeah. I mean, oh, you should be so lucky.
You know, I mean, it's like, it's that whole respectability politics. You know, like, I mean, Black people are told that in order to be acceptable in white society, we have to be well educated and speak properly like me and all this stuff. And yet, even when we do that, you'll kick us off an airplane for what she's wearing. Yeah. I just, you know, I don't even get. You're probably hotter about it than I am at this point. I don't even know how to. I don't even have the energy to get upset about stuff anymore. It's just like,
no, I'm all upset all the time.
You are.
I really am.
I've never. You tweet with an aggressive vengeance.
Oh no!
If you're not following Kathy on Twitter, get your life.
I retweet everything you need to know about. Everything that's
I don't
horrible.
even watch CNN. I just follow her on Twitter.
Everything that someone's preaching about, I will retweet like a mofo. Mm-hmm. And then I will put my 2 cents in every now and then.
Yes, and she'll start it off with, I just want to say. And you're like, girl, you only got 280 characters.
Or the 2 things I walked away from this were.
Yes. So please go find at Kathy Deach on the Twitters, because you will get your life.
Ridiculous.
And learn.
There was a happy thought. There was a happy thing that happened.
Happy.
And we got to watch it together, which was my favorite thing.
We did a reaction video.
We did on Instagram.
We watched the new Miley Cyrus Mother's Daughter video. Y'all, Miley brought that shit.
She let everybody have it.
She brought it.
She didn't care.
She had claws on her vajayjay.
That's exactly what I was just gonna say. She was like, I got a zipper claw vajayjay. What you gonna do? It looks like a clawed zipper. She didn't care.
Okay. And you know, Miley don't care
no
way.
She doesn't anyway. And what I love about her is that she'll go big, and then if she messes up, she also apologizes big. Like,
she seems to learn from her,
and she learns things, which I enjoy. I don't mind if people make mistakes if they come correct. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. In the same strength, and she always does. I agree. Like, she'll mess up, and then like on the other side of it, like go overboard, like trying to make sense of things,
and will publicly say how she made the mistake and what, you know. Like I like that about her too, and I, you know. It is going to be, because Kathy said this is her summer bop. Is this going to, well, after Lizzo, obviously. We haven't mentioned Lizzo this episode yet.
I have something to say about that in a second. But I will say that Miley Cyrus did have a beautiful, gorgeous, plus naked, nude, plus size model in a chaise as part of her video, which is why, on top of all of the other amazing, like, just set dressing, like all the styling of it was incredible, and it was beautiful. Like,
it really was
stunning. We both kind of had the same feeling though. Like, even the multi-abled people in the video were allowed to move, and
the fat woman
just lay there being beautiful. Yeah. Which, you know, that everybody can't do everything and everything,
right?
And yet it would have been nice.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what I liked about it, it was very obviously referring to art. You know, it was like very obviously a reference to, I don't even know art well enough to say what art it was a reference to, but it had a Renaissance thing. Yeah. So it was obviously that's what they were doing.
It's like a
Bocelli kind of thing, yeah. I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff.
It's okay. Go watch it. It's awesome.
so good.
We posted it on our page. Yeah. Duh. Don't, but for now, stay. But then after, you could go scroll our page and like all our stuff. Right. We posted a lot in last week's. And then the cutest thing happened. So there's this great brand, Navabi, and I follow them, and they have gorgeous clothes. They don't always have they're very like small, fat, plus like traditional plus models, but their clothes are really dope. And I thought it was really sweet that they did this project. They took kids in a fashion program and gave them mock-ups. So mock-ups are sort of like the figure of a woman, and then you sort of draw clothes around it. And, I went to... I took some art classes at college when I was in high school, and I did figure drawing, and all of my drawings looked like me. They were all chubby. Except for, my teacher was like, no, that's not nice. And she asked me what I wanted to do, and I was like, oh, I really think I want to do fashion. And she was like, well, you can't draw people chubby if you want to do fashion.
You know what? They'll tell you anything. I had a voice teacher. Stopped me. I had a voice teacher tell me I was too fat to be a singer. So
I mean, that's the craziest.
They'll find anyway.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard in my whole life. I've never met a fat girl that couldn't sing.
Okay.
Please show me. Come to the table if you're out there. Every fat bitch sings. Anyway, but it's so true though. I mean, Rachel Cafaro. I'm sorry, Rachel Cafaro. That's my college friend, Renee Cafaro. Oh my God, everything's like crisscrossed in my brain. But so this program, so the kids drew them on like rounder, curvier bodies, and then they made the clothes for them.
It was so cute. These kids they designed clothing for bigger women, and then their teachers tried them on, which was adorable.
And Navabi was like, "Here's your thing."
Yeah.
And I love the one with the there was one actual plus size teacher in a little jean skirt short situation, and she was adorable.
It's such a cute. It was like heartwarming. It was like you never get to have it's so rare that we get to have like a heartwarming good like fat story.
Someone being good to the kids about fat. We're going to talk about that.
We're going to get to it
later.
when Dr. Strings
We're going to take a little break. So we finally, on the 4th, if you came and looked for us and we weren't there, we did post our video for hashtag Stop the Biggest Loser. I know a couple of people who have shared it, which I really, really appreciate. Please share it, blow it up, make your own video, hashtag the crap out of that, talk to your friends. We don't want anyone to do the show.
Yeah, don't submit.
Don't submit. Just boycott it.
Yeah, spread the word. We need the mainstream entertainment media to know you can't keep trying to kill us and expect us to watch and pay. You're advertising to us while you're allowing us to torture ourselves. I can't do it.
No.
So yeah, we're gonna stop it. Stop the Biggest Loser.
So
hashtag.
In case you missed it, here's the video, our PSA, which you're welcome to share. And when we're back, we'll have Dr. Strings in the seat.
Hi, it's the Gals and Plus This. I'm Kathy Deach.
And I'm Nikki Bailey. And we just heard some really interesting news. Y'all, they are trying to bring back The Biggest Loser.
There was a casting notice sent out to several of our friends. They are claiming that this time they're going to include wellness and health.
Let me just remind you what The Biggest Loser is. It was the show that featured fat people being tortured to lose weight.
And as a very, very smart friend of ours just said, basically treats fat people like they're in a minstrel show. We want there to be a movement to just say no. We want them to not find one contestant.
We want them to be like, how come we don't have anybody who wants to be on this show?
We're asking you to share your story and your outrage by using the hashtag #StopTheBiggestLoser.
We're fat. We're human. We're worthy of love, and we do not deserve the kind of torture and violence that The Biggest Loser promotes.
No contestants, none at all.
The jig is up. So hashtag Stop the Biggest Loser.
Stop the Biggest Loser.
They're bringing The Biggest Loser back.
They got a lot of nerves.
Yes. And we've started a movement to stop The Biggest Loser.
Pretty much. Oh yeah,
okay,
we're gonna.
So Yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't need to have the headset on.
Not unless you want.
Okay. No.
Do you want them on?
I don't know.
Yeah, your hair looks good.
So we're super excited because we have been joined in the studio by our special guest today. Y'all, you ain't ready. You ain't even ready. Please welcome Dr. Sabrina Strings. Oh my
Thank you
gosh.
so much for having me.
Oh,
So
we are
glad
so
you're here.
psyched that you're here. This book, Fearing the Black Body. I don't even know where to start. You just, I'm like I have to tell you, like in my notes from the book, they're all, how did she write this without losing her mind?
No.
I'm like reading it crying, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, and you, so how long did it take you to write it, first of all?
So I've been thinking about the contents of the book for about 20 years, because it began with conversations with my grandmother, as I can tell you about later. But writing the book took about 5 years. And actually, it was cathartic. I was so happy to be able to work on something that was meaningful to people in my family and not just to myself. So when I finished the book, I was in tears. I was like, oh my gosh, I did this thing. But it's definitely difficult to read some portions of it.
Yeah.
It is. And, with a provocative title like Fearing the Black Body, did you get any pushback on that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, I began this project from the other direction because my original question was, why are white women dying to be thin? Right. And again, this was inherited from my grandmother. So when the book was finally written and I was having conversations with people at my publisher, there was definitely a lot of back and forth about the title. Yeah. But finally we landed on this one, which I thought accurately represents the book.
And the provocative illustration that you found as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even that, like, people on our Instagram were like, whoa, like, that was a real thing that someone did at that time.
Right, in the 19th century.
Yeah.
I mean, many of us are familiar with Saartjie Baartman, who was the Hottentot Venus. And what we often learn about her was that she was put on display in various places in Europe. Excuse me. And that mostly what they were looking at was like the size of her buttocks or even the elongation of her labia. There has been an underrepresentation of the fact that so much of the concern surrounding her was that she was considered to be of excessive size. Some people even suggested that she was 3 yards and 3/4 round, and that this was one of the draws for the elite Europeans who were interested in finding out, well, what do black women look like? Because many of them had never seen a black woman in the 19th century.
Okay, let's talk about French people. I want to talk about French people.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I found fascinating was that the French had, my understanding of it might be like not that accurate. I want you to absolutely correct me, please, if I'm wrong. So French people were like, on our land, everybody's free. Here, if you are from France, everybody's free.
Right.
But in our colonies, we could totally put people in enslavement. And then when they got minds who were I'm putting it in quotes, intellectuals to make that okay. It was so obvious that, like, we need this in order to own as much of the globe as we can. So now we have to create this symptom that makes it okay. And you know what I mean? So the symptom of the black person is that they're more animals than, I mean, it just, ugh. Anyway, I mean, that's my bite-sized version of a very, very amazing dense
I was going to say, I don't think we've done this for the audience yet. So the book is called Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fatphobia. So give us, like, your synopsis of, like, because I don't want us to try to do that. Give us the synopsis for the audience so that they'll know what we're talking about.
Okay. So for me, the takeaway from the book is this. We often think that fat phobia is rooted in health concerns. But actually, when we look at the historical record, what we find is that fat phobia is rooted in two things: race science and Protestantism. So as you were already talking about, Kathy, race science was built up as a mechanism to justify enslavement because slavery was lucrative. And so people wanted to feel like they were enlightened and also humanists, but they also wanted to continue to make that money, right? So race science was a way of justifying slavery. And part of the race science suggested that black people are sensuous. You know, we're fond of sex, we're fond of food, and this is the reason why black people are constitutionally fat. Protestantism was important because it also suggested that overeating was a sin. And so there was this movement in England in the 18th century to encourage people to eat less for God. And in the United States, a lot of these rationales were starting to compound, right? So in Europe, we had like the French race science, and then we had like the English Protestantism. But in America, they decided to combine these rationales and suggest actually overeating and fatness are both black and sinful.
Ooh, I mean, you know, I love the part where you talk about the Irish and how the Irish, a lot of times because of their bigger bodies, were also like with Protestants and the Catholics were like, you know, sinful and fat and all that stuff. And just feeling it and just knowing that Ireland had the potato famine and that people were starving, and that's how they justified taking their food, because, well, you're a fat culture anyway, like you're sinful. I mean, so much of it felt so personal and also not at all personal. Do you know what I mean? Like it really, anything that I thought about fatness as tied to my lineage felt like blown up. Do you know what I mean? It was like all of a sudden it had this crazy wide lens and how far it reached.
Yeah, I wanted to say that as I was reading it, I was like, it made such, like it fell so perfectly into place, all of the different elements and pieces. And all I kept thinking was, we've forgotten this whole history, and it is now so deeply ingrained in who we are and what we think about race and about size and about everything else, that it boggles my mind that you could even pick apart history in a way that allowed you to elucidate like this thesis. Like, it's just like, how did you tell me, like, what made you connect these dots?
So when I first began this project and I was interested in slenderness in particular, what I did was I went to women's magazines and I thought, okay, well, women are often getting advice in the contemporary moment about how to look. And so potentially it was true in the early 20th century or even the 19th century that women were still looking to magazines to get advice on how to look. And the very first iteration of this project, I was interested in the 50s and 60s because people often would ask me, what about Marilyn Monroe, right? So there was this movement from Marilyn Monroe to Twiggy between the 50s and the 60s, right? But it turns out when you look at the historical data, what you see was just this momentary blip in which women with slightly larger bodies, you know, thick, Marilyn Monroe would be considered thick by today's standards, but not necessarily fat, were prized, right? So I just continued to sort of dig back into the historical record. And then there was a moment in which I saw, I think it was in Cosmopolitan magazine, that the women were so clearly articulating a relationship between race and weight. I had not anticipated that, you know, so they would say things like, oh, you know, she's a Scottish Highlander and she has, you know, the slender physique and the milky white skin to prove it. And I was like,
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize that Cosmo went in on the race science, but here it is.
Yeah.
Was there anything that really surprised you when you hit it? Was there anything that really stood out, like that you were like, oh, this is extremely surprising?
The most surprising aspect is something that you've already touched on, Kathy, which is the tremendous amount of conversation surrounding the Irish. I was like, I'm looking into this history that to me seems very clearly black and white in the contemporary time. But when I started to dig deeper, I saw that the Irish weren't necessarily considered white at all times in American history. When they arrived in some of the earlier periods in the early 19th century, sure. But by the time that the famine hit, there was this real concern about these outsiders. Like, how do we integrate these people? They're not Protestants. Actually, we're not even sure they're white, right? And so that was the most surprising aspect of this book, which is that I ended up inadvertently becoming a scholar of Irish American history because there was such a similarity in descriptions of the Irish Americans and Black Americans.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
You talk about race as a double agent. talk about what that means exactly. I mean, when I read it, I was like, well, race is horrible. Like the whole construction of race is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think that I guess I had two things that I was wondering about. One was the race as a double agent, but also like this idea that fat black bodies are perceived differently or more acceptable in black culture versus fat bodies in white culture. So those are two separate things.
Okay.
But talk first about the race as double agent, and then we'll get into the. I have so much I want to talk to you about.
It should have been a double episode. It should have been a double episode.
I have so many notes and I have so many questions. I'm like, I need to know.
We're gonna do an after video too, and y'all should become Patreons. Screw the French. To see this video after. It's going to be epic. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So these are great questions, Nikki, and I really appreciate them. Race as a double agent, what I'm trying to articulate with this particular phrase is to show that we often talk about racism and that we expect that we will find racism against black people, against other people of color, and that racism is leveled only amongst groups that are not white. What I'm showing is that it actually works two ways. Not only is race as a construct being used to degrade people of color, but it's also being used to discipline white people. It's being used to remind white people how they must not be if they hope to remain at the top of the racial hierarchy.
So what does that mean? I mean, but then you look at like how influential black culture is in dominant culture. Yeah. What does that mean?
Right.
You know, like what is
I
that?
went to the ESPYs last night, and I will tell you, it was incredible. But it also was like a bunch of white people wanting props from black people. I literally watched it happen all night long. Like white guys wanted to be bros, they wanted to be down, and every time they were like, "What?" I mean, I saw so many white guys try handshakes, guys. It was really embarrassing. No. But it really was this thing on display. Like they want the cachet of black culture. I mean, they want it. It gives them some kind of boost. It's especially in LA, I think, even more than New York. I think to be down in LA.
I think the thing for me that's so interesting is that black culture is so influential and so despised at the same time. And so what does that mean for fat bodies? You know, like what does that mean for how, you know, if you are both being perceived as fat and unattractive, but also like fat and black and unattractive, and also you've got people who are like thick or even fat. You got Lizzo out here now sort of creating new standards for, you know, and so I have so many more questions than answers. I have no statements. I feel like, you know, your book has been everywhere. Like it's been on NPR. You've been talking about it a lot. It's getting a lot of press. I feel like the time is so perfect for it because it is the exact moment in history when we need to hear this, where all of these things like, cross and, you know, and how they fit together. And so, and I think because you've sort of made this book that is like so easy to read and so full of information, I was like, what do we do with this information now? I want to use it. Let's break everything down. Like and so like what do you see, like how do you see this book sort of getting to that and breaking down this history that we have and how do we move forward now that you've shown us the history?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that I want to do is to allow people to stop and think before they so easily suggest that fat is unhealthy. So, I mean, because this is what oftentimes comes up in conversations. Whenever people want to assert any type of fat pride, any type of self-acceptance, it's like, oh, well, but you know, it's unhealthy, right? And so part of what the book is doing is showing precisely how within the medical establishment, they picked up these very clearly racialized understandings about bodies, also religious understandings, and that they were sometimes even citing some of these fashion magazines like, oh, you know, the fashion magazines, they've really got it right. We really should try to get women down to a particular size. So part of what the book is showing is that science is not objective. We wish that it were.
It was one of the biggest revelations when you were like, science does not affect culture. Culture affects science more than that. I mean, when that was in black and white, and that's what's so scary, but in a way, it's the thing that made you research this book. So, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's always going to be tied. Like, where there is curiosity, there will be study, right? So the culture will bring up our curiosity. But the fact that it has gone so the other way, where, like, we've talked to Dr. Linda Bacon, who I know you've talked about, and she's amazing. And she, what I love about her is that she says, you know, she brings up the studies. She's like, study after study, they show it's not right. But then in their conclusion, they still go back to the same old. They still say, but you probably really should lose weight. Even though all this data says the opposite. Like, it doesn't have, it's not conclusive. Weight is not a complete factor. There's so many other things, but you really should still be thin. And she said that's like her biggest problem, disconnect. And I hope your book challenges those people who are teaching that, really, right? You have to get the teachers on board.
Oh my gosh. When I was in the middle of writing this, I was getting so many different types of pushback. Actually, I was working at, let's say, a prestigious university, so we won't have to name names. And there was a faculty member there who said to me that my work was dangerous. You know, like, it's very important for us to remind fat people to lose weight. But fortunately, I spoke to another faculty member, and we were just sort of like talking about, like, where does this even come from? And then she said, I wonder how much science was involved even in the decisions to start using BMI in the first place. And that was the moment I was like, this is what I want to be able to investigate. Because people often are unaware that something like anorexia, that is actually listed as a cause of death on a death certificate. Obesity is not, because it's actually not deadly, whereas anorexia is deadly. But there's so much terror surrounding being fat, when in fact being fat is quite often benign, right? So there's really no reason for us to be so invested in trying to get people to a particular weight, because it's usually not the weight that's the issue.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how you know that it's a cultural problem, not a medical one.
Oh, we have to take a break just for a second. I mean, honestly, who wants to? I need water because I'm like choking on my own saliva from wanting to murder things. Wanting to murder facts. Why are people reading facts? I just want to, Anyway, so we did a bunch of fun videos for Fatch for Big Bitch Summer. Ashley Nicole Black did a really hilarious tweet. She's like, wow, there is so much fat phobia on my timeline right now. So why don't we just do Big Bitch Summer and tell me what your plans are to lighten this up. So Fatch did a bunch. So we'll be right back.
Ashley Nicole Black. Big Bitch Summer.
Big Bitch Summer.
Big BITCH Summer. Just in case my mom was watching.
We done been to pool parties. We walking around this bitch in bikinis because you know what?
I don't want to die without ever wearing a two-piece.
I am wearing all of my favorite fat positive t-shirts that makes everybody around me uncomfortable. I'm gonna take up so much space. Like, I don't give a fuck about your diet, Susan.
I wore my first ever two-piece, and I'm so happy and excited.
Like thicker than a Snickers. And I'm gonna eat a donut, and I'm gonna have a latte. You can get out of the way of my big BITCH hips.
We are here for it, bitch.
Big Bitch Summer. Big Bitch Summer. Yay!
We are fabulous.
Oh my God. I love when I'm surprised on my own show.
I love when I edit videos that you don't look at
before
we put them
It's
on.
been a day. It's been a day. You sent it late last night. This morning, I was like this. Oh, cut and paste. And I was just pleasantly surprised. One thing I did want to ask you about, and this is another thing that Dr. Bacon discussed with us. There's this weird push and pull because you are what we call a straight size person, and you have this like fabulous authority and allyship in being a straight size person saying this, you in one sense are more likely to be believed than a fat person giving this information. And yet there is the fat community who is having a really big problem with body positivity being usurped for yoga practices and self-help, wellness, and then they still just want you to diet anyway. So, and like diet teas and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk to you about, have you brought this to groups of fat women, and what is their response? Because I'm curious about that. I'm wondering if your weight is actually an issue in people hearing what you're saying.
Definitely. So when I was giving a talk about some of my more recent work, this was maybe back in March, I was very clear at the time that I am a person who has thin privilege. Right. Part of what I'm showing in the book is that thin privilege is intended to be an appendage to white privilege. And so it's, obviously going to be undercut by racism in some ways, but it doesn't mean that I don't have it. Right. And so it does mean that people who might otherwise turn their brains off when a fat person is talking about fat phobia is actually so confused that for a moment they stop and listen. Like when I was working on this in the form of dissertation some years ago, I was advised by one faculty member that I should stop doing this kind of work and just tell people how to lose weight. And I said, so I would be the 100,000th person to start a diet regime. How many more weight loss guides do people need? So, and also,
are you a physician? Politics. Are you a physician?
Well, no, but as a thin person, I must be an authority on diets, and so why don't I just tell people how to be on a diet? And so I said, well, no, I'm not going to do that.
Thank God.
So for so many different reasons. But yeah, definitely, there are many different instances in which, especially if there are other straight-sized people present, they're going to be more likely to listen to me. At the same time, I've also experienced some people who are very uncomfortable with me speaking about this because I am a slim person. And I try to remind people that what I'm talking about is not the contemporary experience of being fat, because that's not my lane, right? There are many incredible people at the forefront of that. In addition to the two of you, we've got people like Jessamine Stanley and Sonia Renee Taylor and Roxane Gay. These are the people to listen to when we're talking about the contemporary experience of being fat. What I'm writing about is the history of relating fat phobia and anti-Blackness. And that actually does have to do with me because it was about all Black people. Actually, it's a history about all American women.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about a lot is this idea that being thin does not make you morally superior. And you that's basically what you're pointing to that directly with, factual history here. That so what do you say to the people who might read this and look at the history and the way that you've presented it and maybe think she was looking for that and so she found what she was looking for? Like for the people who were like, no, we know that thin is better. And obviously, what do you say to people who are like, you can create anything from history. You can create any kind of story.
Gluttony is a sin. The Bible says that gluttony is a sin.
In the Bible that we should be,
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to write the book if the information wasn't there for me to include. And part of what I tried to do was look at some of the most prominent people who were speaking on the topic. So, for instance, John Harvey Kellogg. We don't often think of him today as an important physician or even a seventh-day Adventist. Exactly, right? We think of him as this person who was hawking breakfast cereals.
Yeah. Right.
But actually what he was very concerned about was reforming American women's bodies. He thought that American women were far too slender, and if they could gain just enough weight to make them the sturdy stock that they could reproduce the nation effectively, then he would be quite pleased. And so what I'm showing is that he wasn't just some fringe lunatic writing from the margins, but he was publishing in the American Journal of Public Health. He was publishing in the Journal of the American Medical Association. He had all of the esteem that a person would need to be recognized as an important scholar. So if people are unwilling to think about these things, there's nothing I can do about that. But the fact of the matter is I looked specifically for the most influential people, and those are the ones I included.
So let me tell you why I asked that question, because it's a really fucked up question. The reason I asked the question is that I'm so used to Black women and fat women not being believed, especially, like, I have a lot of friends who have PhDs and do all this scholarship or whatever, but I feel like my Black female friends have to work harder to be considered valid. And so I wanted to ask the direct question so that if you're listening and you were like, whatever, they're just drinking the Kool-Aid. No, she works hard. She's got a PhD. She did all the research. And so, and I wanted to ask the question because it's so common to be dismissed because of the color of your skin or because of their size or whatever. Yeah. And I just wanted it to be clear, like, this is a legit historical analysis that I can't even conceive of the far-reaching impact it could have over time.
Yeah.
And I am so excited that fat studies is a thing now, because the people who are doing fat studies and race studies, like, oh, mind is blown, and I'm so excited. Like that's why I'm so excited about this book, because it's so perfectly timed. And you know, obviously you were chosen for such a time as this, and I'm so I went biblical because y'all, this book is the truth. Get one.
Get it. It'll make you feel real smart. I want to talk really briefly about something that has been happening on our Facebook page. Facebook is fascinating because Twitter and Instagram are totally different beasts. And Facebook is sort of where a lot of people feel like they have the most room to say what they need to say. And we've had this meme that we've put out there about taking weight bias out of your talking about food. Like, so basically, food is not good or bad. It's just food, and you eat it or you don't, and that's your choice. And trying to take the morality, like, quandary out of eating. And it has been shared with 220,000 people the last time I checked. It has, like, blown up, and people have a lot of feelings about it. And this power of language within diet culture, like how we now have not just made it about our bodies, but made it about like the actual physical thing we're eating is a good or bad thing. And I was just wondering if you could speak to that. Did you find anything, or is there anything that you can look to sort of help us with, you know, like telling people, well, if you change your thought, then you wouldn't be sort of a product of the system anymore. You know what I mean? Because I think that that's really what the meme challenge is. I think as soon as you tell somebody the thing you believe isn't true, they're like, wait a minute. They're very attached to how they think about food. Right. Women especially. It's been like a crazy amount of women who have been like, I don't know if these girls know what they're talking about. We do know what we're talking about.
I mean, it speaks to the whole effed up question I just asked you, is because people don't believe us because we're fat women posting information about fatness. And so obviously we have to be just cheering for cake because we're fat, not because it actually makes a difference what you say. So like, it's just, so one of the comments that like is like, you know, instead of saying I'm going to be bad and have a slice of cake, you say, I feel like I'd like some cake and I'm going to have some. Yeah. And people got mad at us for that. Like
I like all of them except for that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
they need cake to be bad.
Yeah.
Why must cake be vilified?
Yeah.
And well, so part of what I'm also showing in the book is that there's this long history of treating certain types of food as good, especially within the Protestant discourse. And so it's like, if you're having milk and vegetable, this is good. But if you're having anything stimulating or too much sugar or too much meat, then this is bad. And so I don't think we should be that surprised to see that people are still doing that, because of what we were talking about before, the sort of like, there's this unremembered history that we're just continuously participating in. And so people are simply picking up ideas from the past. Why cake would have to be the one, like why cake is the Alamo, like that they refuse to like allow cake to be, I don't know, valid. That's peculiar. But I think people really want to feel like their lives have meaning. And somehow by being able to control the amount of food they eat and what they eat, it gives them a sense that they are superior. So maybe we shouldn't be that surprised that people are like, well, cake is bad and I'm good because I've avoided it.
Yes. I think exactly I agree with that. Well, thank you. It went way too fast.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell everyone where are the best places to find you? I mean, obviously Google is a thing. She's
Amazon.
Yes,
Amazon.
The
book. Go get the book on Amazon.
Go get the book on Amazon. Yeah. And also, you've been on several podcasts that we're fans of, and they're really amazing and fascinating and different every time. So we study, girl. We study about you. We learned all about you. So where can people find out more about what you've been writing about, and where do you like to write down your thoughts about things?
Well, let's see. I have a Twitter account. It's SA Strings. I've tweeted 4 things. I'm feeling pretty good. It's like double the amount from my last interview. I was like, well, I tweeted 4 things, y'all. Check me out. So I'm actually trying to be more engaged there. I also have a website, raceandyoga.com, where you can check me out. We have a Twitter feed, also Instagram at raceandyoga. But that's more or less it. You can Google me. and you can check
Are
out
you
the book
making
and
any
other things.
appearances?
Google her.
Not that I'm aware of just yet, but
Okay.
I think more things will be on the horizon.
First of all, we're gonna make one up. We're gonna do a day, and you're gonna be there to talk to people. Like,
Love
right?
it.
Like, we have to have a panel with you.
We
If we can
really-
get Dr. Bacon and you in one room, my head might explode. We'll work it out.
Yes.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out. And anytime you do, you have to let us know.
Yes.
Tag
So we
us,
can
be
blow it up.
obnoxious.
Yeah.
We'll blow you up.
Okay,
In
I would
a
love
second.
that.
Thank you for writing the book.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so much
much.
for having
all
me.
fat women,
this has really
especially
been great.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And next week we'll see you at Plus This. We're everywhere at Plus This show. I'm terrible. That was the worst sign off ever.
And also join the Patreon.
yeah, because we're gonna talk more.
Bye, guys.